Good afternoon, everyone, and we are into now lecture number 6. And today's discussion will be related to financial analysis or financial techniques for energy audit. So now, the outcomes for today's lecture will be the students will be able to apply financial analysis technique to energy conservation projects. Some abbreviations that we will be using today will be SPP, simple payback period, NPV, that is net present value, ROI, that is return on investment, IRR, internal rate of return, P by C ratio, that is benefit to cost ratio, and OPEC, that is Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. So basically, what is energy? We would like to recall, we have discussed this in the previous lectures, like what is energy. So energy is defined as the ability to do work or to produce heat. So heat could be generated by burning of fuel or through other means, that is capturing sunlight, etc. Energy can be captured and harnessed from very diverse sources that can be found in various physical states. Example, coal, oil, natural gas. So this is captured energy and can be harnessed from by using some technology. So always when we say energy which is available in a primary form, it is a primary source of energy. But when it can be derived in other form of energy by some technology used, it is called as a secondary energy. For example, electricity. So electricity can be produced by coal or electricity can be produced by natural gas. So electricity becomes a secondary source of energy, whereas coal becomes primary source of energy. So classification of energy, this is also a repetition for you, but this time we have made classification based on 5 different sources. One is source based, that means I told you it is a primary source of energy or secondary source of energy. So primary can also be divided into renewable and non-renewable. Can you tell me what will be the example of source based primary renewable form of energy?
Solar energy.
Yes. So solar energy is a renewable form of energy, which is a primary source of energy. And now can you tell me about what will be non-renewable but primary source of energy?
Coal.
Yes. So coal, oil, which can become depleted once we extract it more than whatever is available. So that becomes that is an exhaustible source of energy, but it is a primary source of energy available in the nature in a primary form. Okay, so that becomes a non-renewable primary source of energy. So then depending upon the usage, it can be classified into commercial, non-commercial. What can be commercial source of energy?
Electricity.
Yeah, electricity, coal, oil, all are under commercial form of energy, whereas non-commercial sources of energy, non-commercial, yes,
Wood.
yes, wood or biomass. So, but at times wood can become chargeable, whereas say for example in city or urban areas, we are using coal as a burning source, as a fuel source. So we have to purchase this firewood from some commercial market. So that becomes a non-commercial, that becomes a commercial source of energy. Whereas if we are having a forest land in which we are doing plantation of this firewood and our yearly consumption is lesser than the production, then it becomes a non-commercial source of energy. Got this idea? Then based on the technology, we have conventional and non-conventional source of energy. So conventional means what? If we are using some technology for conversion of primary source to a secondary source, then it will be called as a conventional source of energy. Whereas non-conventional means wind turbine. Wind turbine is having some technology, but it is freely available. So it becomes a non-commercial, conventional source of energy, right? So emission-based, local pollutant, global pollutant. So for example, when we have a uh, energy source which is capable of influencing the local climate, so it becomes a local pollutant, emission-based solar energy. Example, like say for example, we are burning wood, so it will create a local pollution. Whereas when we use coal as a power in the power plant, so it will pollute globally. That means global greenhouse gas emissions will take place from a power plant. It will be a global pollutant, and it will come under this emission-based energy source. Storage-based, say for example, some source of energy which we can store, and some sources of energy which we cannot store. Example, wind energy. Wind energy we cannot store. Wind is available, we have to harness it at the real time basis. Whereas hydro energy, we can store it in dams, it becomes a storable source of energy. For example, chemical energy stored in a battery becomes a storable form of energy, whereas uh, the solar energy, we will not be able to store it in solar panels, so it becomes a non-storable source of energy, right? So this is related to classification of energy. 5 marks question can come to classify the energy based on different sources. That is source based, use based, technology based, emission based, and storage based. One statement you can write it with this classification. 5 marks question. Okay. So now, what is energy as an economic resource? So you see, this is the example of fuel wood final consumption. Which are the countries which are using fuel wood? There are various species of fuel wood. You can search at your level that what type of fuel wood I can harness or I can produce in my farm, so that I will be using it for the entire year. Also, what kind of firewood is there which will not cause emissions, which will be a clean source of energy, which do not produce carbon monoxide but produces carbon dioxide, which is okay for me, right? So these type of species are available. You can find it out which one is suitable for my application. Okay, so you see, globally, India is a uh, major consumer of the fuel wood for different purposes we use. Say, for example, I would like to tell you over here that 10% of the forest is used in paper and pulp industries, whereas 90% is used for burning purpose. Okay, so India is an agriculture land, and fuel wood or biomass is used for burning. In today's scenario, also you will find households are burning biomass for heating purpose. Okay, industrial round wood or wood fuel production. You see that India is also leading producer of the fuel wood. Okay, now let us spend some time on the history of energy economics, how this energy got its relation with economics, or we can say how this energy got associated with economics term. So in late back in 1950, the scarcity of energy resource was not realized, was yet to be realized. That means people all across the world didn't talk about energy resource which is being depleted, or there is a scarcity of energy. Predominantly, there was a energy in the form of, say, coal, oil, natural gas. In 1950s, worldwide consumption of energy was very low, so there was no realization of scarcity of energy resource at that time. Okay, in 1960, some countries noticed that the energy extraction rate is lower than the rate of consumption. That means the consumption got increased. The energy consumption in terms of electricity got increased. Electricity came from coal, and the amount of electricity that was produced. This is not a scenario of India just. It is a global scenario we are talking about, and the history of energy as economics globally. If we understand globally, then we will be able to correlate with respect to India. Okay. So some countries noticed that there is the energy extraction, that means the coal extraction that is taking place, is very less or lower than the rate of consumption. At that time, the industrial revolution took place in 1960. All our industries were based on coal. Why? Because there was the steam revolution. That means the invention of steam took place, and our steam engines were running on coal. So extraction of energy in the form of coal was lower than the rate of consumption in 1960. But till 1960 also there was no relation of coal in terms of economics. So energy, the coal energy and economics was not there till 1960. Okay, then the invention of natural gas, oil, petroleum were found out in the year 1970, and in 1973 the OPEC came into existence. What is OPEC? The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. So these petroleum exporting countries formed their organization, and they formed an oil embargo on the countries such as Canada, Japan, Netherlands, USA, and UK. Embargo means they put a restriction on who will be producing the oil, who will be distributing the oil or exporting the oil. So oil export countries were Israel, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and so on. Some part of US, that is the Texas. And there's a beautiful story you can go through and find out what happened to Texas. And I will be happy if somebody shares the story of Texas oil fields with the class. Okay, some point of time, if you come across, put it in the WhatsApp chat. Okay, that what happened to the Texas oil fields. Okay, and in which year. So there will be some connection between 1960 and 1970. Okay, so why this embargo was there? If you know, there was a war between the Arab countries and
Sir,
Israel.
it was something about like oil exporting countries like totally banned that they'll not supply the oil to uh, USA, and there was a huge crisis in USA among these years from 1960 to 1980.
Right, correct. So in
So
that
they were
country,
struggling hard, and then they drilled and means all very much incidents means US faced a lot of crisis during that period.
correct, correct, correct. So because this embargo was there by the OPEC countries, US started exploiting their own resources to a larger extent. Right? This is what you are going to say, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, correct. So this embargo was there because there was a war on Israel and the Arab countries. So they put up that we will not supply, and because the UK and Netherlands were supporting Israel, the Arab countries stopped their supply of oil to these countries. Okay, that is what is called as an oil embargo by the OPEC countries. Okay, then this embargo was lifted, but what was the consequence of this lifting of embargo? So embargo was lifted in 1974, but the consequence of this embargo was there was an increase of oil price from $2 per barrel to $12 per barrel. Okay, so you can see there is a six-fold increase in the oil prices because of this randomness, or we can say the revolution in the supply of oil from oil producing countries. Okay, because the some countries were lagging, and you know that industrial revolution requires the energy. We have seen it in our first lecture, that how energy is related to GDP, how energy is related to the developing index of a country. So if the country wants to develop, the country has to produce oil and consume oil or consume energy in terms of oil, coal, and natural gas. Okay, so the second oil price shock was there in 1979. Oil price further increased. The issue of energy security came into the forefront once more. That means, see, up till now, there was no economics related to energy, but for the first time, when there was a shot up of energy price in 1974, in just 5 years time, there was a concern or there was an issue of energy security. So if I am not mistaken, that in 1977, somebody searched for me that when the Planning Commission was set up in India, and I guess it is in 1977 that India first understood the importance of energy security, and the sixth 5 year plan was discussed. And in that sixth 5 year plan, the energy security was discussed in a prominent domain, and the issue came into limelight that there should be some energy security, there should be some fuel substitution, there should be some fuel transition, that we cannot just rely on oil, and we should put our focus on our own resources. And that was the moment in 1979 that India started its coal production and extracted the coal to a larger extent. And you will find in literature that the coal extraction shot up during this time, that is in 1980s. Okay, you find it in literature. So in 1980, there was a trade-off between energy and environment. Why? Because when we started exploiting coal, suddenly there was a climate concern. Why? Because when we burn coal, there will be volatile matter, there will be some health hazards because of this coal burning. Because now you know that coal, whatever coal reserves we have, it is not a good quality of coal. So if you burn bad quality of coal to a larger extent, definitely it will result into health hazards and climate issues. So in 1980s, in just 3 years time after implementation of this 5 year plan, we found out that the emphasis has to be done between energy and environment. What do you mean by trade-off between energy and environment? That means if I am burning 1 kg of coal, my 100 people are suffering. If I burn 10 kg of coal, then 1,000 people are affecting. So how much coal I will burn so that only lesser amount of lesser population will be affected? That is called as a trade-off between energy and environment. How much I should produce, how much I should burn, so that my environment is not getting hampered, was first emphasized in the year 1980. Very important. 1980, very important. Why? Because there was a trade-off between energy and environment. Then there was a liberalization of energy market. That means who will produce, who will sell, how much it will produce, and how much he will sell. There was a trade-off between energy and environment. There was a need to get tie up. There was a nexus between the different countries to talk about who will generate this or who will produce how much amount of energy we cannot extract. See, now you relate the term of which country will be able to extract energy from the earth crust in the form of crude oil, in the form of coal. There is a restriction of the country because of this Texas issue. Which country will extract how much amount of energy? There is a restriction, global. Yeah. Hello? Please ask. So there was a restriction being imposed on the countries, and there was a global nexus being formed, which was discussed globally, that we can have the liberalization of energy market. There can be some give and take of energy from one place to another, and there was a market being set up. Okay. Any problem? Everyone is with me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in 1990, there was a issue of climate change was discussed, and there was a setup of IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. Okay. So in 2000, the energy became a complex model. Okay, energy became a complex model, and there was a market open for coal, there was a market open for oil, there was a market open for gas, there was market open for different forms of energy. So now all forms of energy became tradable, and there was a discourse of sustainable development. That means the first instant of sustainable development took place in 2000. And you know now that there was a sustainable development goals set up by UNDP, that is United Nations Development Program, for all countries. And there was a, what we can say, interest being observed by countries. It was the countries who were, so 1 minute. Right. So there was a discourse of sustainable development, and the countries were invited to participate in the sustainable development goals. And as per the norms, the countries were given a target that during these years you can use your resources in such a way that consuming the resources in such a way that there should be some trade-off between energy, environment, climate change, and sustainable development. All four things together. Okay. Uh, there is no change in my audio, right? Hello.
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay. So the energy market now. See, now you have understood the history. See here, 1950. We will just summarize. In 1950, there was a scarcity. 1960, there was concern about how much should be extracted and how much should be consumed. Then there was a formation of OPEC. Then there was a thing observed that because of various factors affecting the countries, there will be a effect on energy. This was observed during 1974 to 80s. Then there was a trade-off between energy and environment. Then there was a complex structure of energy being set up in 2000. Correct? So now, what is the current market? What is the current energy market? So there are two exchanges. India has formed two exchanges, that is Indian Energy Exchange and Power Exchange of India Limited. Okay, so there are two exchanges. One is the entire coal, oil, natural gas being traded in IEX, and there is a dedicated power market for exchange of electricity or power. So Power Exchange of India Limited and IEX are the two markets at which you will be able to trade your energy with different sectors. Textile industry can supply their power to sugarcane industry. Coal industry can exchange their power or exchange their fuel with some paper and pulp industry or cement industry. Also railways can transfer their electricity. So now you see that railways have their own power plant. Now the railways are not working, so a surplus amount of energy is there that they can trade in this exchange. So there is a power products in this exchange. The first is a day ahead market. This is not related to syllabus, but for your information, your syllabus ends here. What is the history of energy economics? You should be aware of. Only these typical years you have to understand and put up whenever it is asked in the exam. But this is additional to you, which I felt that you should know about. So there is a day ahead market. That means, right, in addition, or we can say in tandem with our stock exchange, there is an energy exchange market. In 15 minutes interval, 15 minutes interval, this rates of energy fluctuates, and these can be traded traded for next 15 minutes. So at 9:15 this market opens and you can trade between different sectors of energy. Who can trade? Designated consumers can trade. Now you know what are designated consumers. How many of you don't know who are designated consumers? Everyone know what is designated consumer?
No, sir.
Designated consumers are those consumers specified by BEE that their consumption is or is capable of hampering the economy of the country, are called as designated consumers. So say for example textile industry, all textile industries in India will have a baseline consumption. Say for example hotel industry. So if there is a hotel and if that hotel is consuming 34 tons of oil equivalent per year, more than that, then it becomes a designated consumer. If there is a hotel and it is consuming less than 34, now what is this 34? This 34 is a baseline consumption specified by BEE for that sector, right? So for a hotel, if that hotel, any hotel you take in India, if that hotel consumption is more than 34 tons of oil equivalent per year, so it is mandatory for that hotel to be conducted by energy auditor, a mandatory energy audit every year. If they are not doing it, BEE will impose a penalty on that sector, on that hotel, because its consumption is more than 34 tons of oil equivalent. Are you getting the idea? So for a hotel, if its consumption is less than 34 tons of oil equivalent, it will not be a designated consumer. So if a designated consumer can trade its energy usage or take energy from the exchange for 15 minutes interval, if it is trading in day ahead market. Similarly, there is a concept called as term ahead market, which trades for 3 months, 6 months. So the prices will be fixed for that sector for 6 months in term ahead market. Similarly, if you have a hotel or if you have a textile industry, as a designated consumer, you are installing solar panels on your rooftop. So you are generating energy from renewable sources. So you will get renewable energy certificate. This renewable energy certificate can be traded in this Indian Energy Exchange at some cost. Example I would like to give you, one ESCert, energy saving certificate. So for example, our college, say for example falls under commercial building, and there is a baseline of 30 tons of oil equivalent as a baseline, and our consumption is more than that. Say it is 31. So our 1 year target will be to reduce this from 31 to 30. If I do that, I will become eligible as a designated consumer for BEE. But if I install solar panels on my terrace and I am capable, and after 1 year my target was 30, but I am able to achieve 28 tons of oil equivalent, so I will secure 2 energy saving certificates. The cost of the base price of one energy saving certificate is 10,000 rupees in the exchange, but that is a base price. Depending upon the market, depending upon the interval, maybe it is day ahead market or term ahead market, the cost of one ESCert will now increase at a exchange level depending upon the demand and supply of that energy saving certificates at that instant. Say for example it is 50,000 rupees. So your one ESCert will fetch you 50,000 rupees. So you have 2 ESCerts, so you will get 1 lakh rupees in 15 minutes. That way your generation of electricity is continuous, is daily. So you see daily trading is also possible. 15 minutes trading is also possible. So this is the beauty of Indian Energy Exchange or Power Exchange of India Limited. Okay. Yes. Anybody would like to ask me some questions related to this? Shall we move further?
Yes, sir.
So now at this point, I would like to make you aware of this current situation. We talked about IEX, that is the Indian exchange market. Similarly, there is a gas economy, there is a coal economy, oil economy. So look at this video. So you see, you are able to hear.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Hello.
No, sir. Audio. Yeah. Don't get audio.
Okay, wait. Once again, I will run.
Sir, not audible.
Not audible, sir.